We can do this.
Thank you. Would you like to say anything?
Well, there's nothing like the Paul Harris Foundation. And I was thinking back, I've been a Rotarian since 1981. Yeah, so good on the math there, Kurt. So anyway, it's a great organization. And I just recently retired. I've been gone. We live in Pine Top for the summer and been traveling the world, but it's really good to see all my friends back at Catalina Rotary. So thanks.
And also, as many of you know, Paul Harris Fellows can also be given via points that we collect by giving donations throughout our Rotary time. This next one is actually a different type of award, but I wanted to highlight the opportunity for each of you, if you have Rotary Foundation points built up, and there is somebody important in your life that you feel fulfills the Rotary feel that we all go for, the spirit of service and charity and giving. I would be glad to work with you to honor those people at future meetings. In fact, I think we have planned for, is it next month? Some of our other volunteers from the Rotary, from the rodeo that we'll be honoring. So we'll be excited to share some of those. I have one last award that I would like to invite somebody up who has now dedicated funds in their will in honor of, or to support the Rotary Foundation at the time of their hopefully long distant demise. So we thank this person for their decision to support Rotary's promise with a legacy contribution. And obviously great things happen when generous people like Steve Pender and his wife Helena give contributions to the Rotary Foundation. So Steve, come on up. And we'll let you put the pin on your wife at home. So this is a special pin designating that he's made a future contribution to the RI Foundation. And there's Andy again for your assistance.
There we go.
If we can get the back off.
Ow! Close.
And for becoming a benefactor of the Rotary Foundation, Steve and his wife are also given a piece of artwork from RI. So if you'd like to show that off a little bit. So thank you very much, Steve. More to come in future weeks, and thank you everybody for your support.
Thank you, BJ. And now let's just see if anybody can figure out where the Queen of Hearts is. Pablo, do you know what the balance is?
I'll say it. Hello? Can everyone hear me? 6675. That is the balance. Now, this person can ruin all this good fun. But Jim, you want to come here and see if you get the queen? Whatever you do, Jim, don't pick the first one, okay? If it's the queen. Oh, it's out of spades. Thank you, sir. Let's keep it going. Till next week.
The fun continues.
It's right here, guys. It was the second card.
Joanne, would you like to come up and help us, help some members part with some money?
And I want to thank my can man Paul for being up here since he's not here all the time. I figured I'd use and abuse him a little bit today. So let's start with, did anybody come in late today? Anybody? Anyone? Aha. Oh, what do you know? Good. I didn't have to call your name out loud, Tom and BJ. But hey, glad you fessed up to that. So thank you. Anybody not wearing a Rotary pin today? Anyone? Oh, got a couple of live ones over there. Anybody else? Oh, another one here. Woohoo. They're dropping like flies, folks. Anybody online doesn't have your pin? I gotta see those. Come on, let's fess up. All right. Buck in the can. Okay. All right. And let's see. Anybody who, first of all, I wasn't here last week, but nobody was. So that's why this is appropriate. And anybody who went to the district conference, how was it? Everybody enjoyed it, right? Anybody who didn't go to the district conference? Buck in the can. All right, there we go. See, now it's coming. Now we're getting there. Okay, let's just roll right into Happy Bucks. I see Mr. Reed has his hand up, wearing his El Tour de Folio ride shirt.
A lot of work. All right. The first dollar is in honor of the worst team in America who has a 5-0 record in football. Well, they were the only team worse than Arizona in recent years, the Kansas Jayhawks. So you get $1. Oh, we get $1 in honor of you. Yeah. And can you believe it? So the other $1 is I got a call Wednesday from the editor of Rotary magazine in Evanston. He wants to feature us in the February issue.
Ooh.
Well, okay, the ride to end polio, but he wants to interview me and then have a 2-page photograph spread on page 2 of the magazine in February.
Wow.
So I nearly fell over. He called me and said, could we do that? I said, yep, I think so.
Wow, I'm glad you weren't on your bike when you nearly fell over, because we've all seen the result of that. Mary Elena.
I have a leg up and I'm going to stretch it as much as I possibly can. Let me get started with the fact that I will have a birthday tomorrow. And I have to be, thank you. I have to be so thankful to be alive and to feel so well. So that's the first part of my leg up. The second part has to do with the fact that my cataract surgeries were very successful and I can see. And, and I drove at night this week and I could see the streets and I was so frightened because I hadn't seen them in a very long time. Third, I want to tell all of you the importance of Rotary support. Jeffrey Derrickson and I went on a trip to Magdalena many years ago. And my very young niece at that point talked to Jeff about the fact that she was interested in dentistry. He supported her efforts and he's supported her through all the years. And she's back in Tucson as an endodontist now. So thank you, Jeffrey. You were very instrumental in her future. Okay, and the very last one is a sad one, actually. I recognized Dr. Tom Meixner from the University of Arizona that unfortunately died very recently. It's a loss to our community. He was a very significant person, and it's a tragic note that we have to endure here in town. So those are my 4 wonderful things, and thank you for allowing me to do this.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was a tragedy. Andy.
I'm going to do a leg up for the Catalina Foundation in honor of our 47th anniversary next Tuesday.
Woohoo. All right. Thank you. And Jeff Derrickson.
I've seen you all last. I've had my 8th grandchild, so.
Woo. All right. And you look marvelous, or you don't look like you've just had a grandchild. So, Tom,
Yeah, a few bucks for a couple of reasons.
you don't want to know, Al.
So I got my teeth cleaned yesterday. Jeff Derrickson showed up in the office and I had the pleasure of telling him the place has not fallen apart since he left.
Very good. Good,
Not
good.
sure if that's a testament to his leadership skills or having a great son-in-law. I suspect the latter, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. So, and then good to see Gail here because I talked to her earlier this week and she told me she was probably going to have jury duty. So she probably got off. So congratulations.
Oh. Oh yeah, that's at least worth $1. Absolutely. Awesome. BJ.
Throwing in a happy 20 for several reasons. I've had my buddy here, Shiv, for about a week now, and he heads back to New York tomorrow, which is hard to believe. You're already gone. So welcome and hasta la próxima. See you next time. Also wanted to put in a few bucks. I will be traveling next Thursday through Monday to Cabo San Lucas, so prepay my fines for that right now. And then I'll add in a sad note. We have a neighbor lady that's probably passing soon, who has been a wonderful community resource, working in local government and nonprofits for a long time, and just is not doing well. So I had the privilege of hanging out with her most of this morning, and I probably will be getting a Paul Harris for her, hopefully in her honor rather than her memorial, but we'll get to work on that. So thank you.
Very good. Very good. Doris or Tony, we got a couple of hands at that table.
I was at the conference and I sat next to Paul Delaney and Kirk, and they were talking, and I'm happy because it sounded like a disaster, that something horrible had happened. And I was happy to find out that it was just the U of A football team lost.
Oh, I love that. Tony.
So I have a happy buck. I don't think I gave any of y'all COVID. I don't think any of you gave me COVID, so that's a good thing. And I've been negative for over a week now. So, but I did manage to get healthy just in time. We were able to play our show at Hotel Congress on Saturday. We had about 150 people, I think. Alita and her husband Bill came. I think they actually took the dance lesson. They looked like they were having a great time. And we will be at Westward Look this Friday, the 14th, from 6 to 8. So come on down. You got to eat.
Very good. Glad you're better. Is that it? Oh, not yet.
I got one
Oh,
too here.
sorry.
Here's my leg up. Like I said, I went to Florida to pick up a collectible car to leave up in Colorado. My son had one just like it. It had 200 and some thousand miles on it. This has only got 90,000 on it. So it's four-wheel. It's a 2004 325 Xi BMW.
Nice.
That, and it's a four-wheel drive. So we're up in the mountains. I don't have to take two cars back and forth now. So
Very nice.
and she had passed away. She was 90 when she passed away, but she bought it when she was 73. One owner car. So it was
Wow.
yeah, it was nice. Yeah.
Such a deal. Such a deal. Who did I see? Arturo, I believe, right? And then Al Chesser.
I'm putting in a happy buck for my son being here.
Yes. Yay.
One more quick one. Thank you, Tom. So yeah, I was on a 2-week jury duty, but apparently I think having son in law enforcement got me excused, not sure. And anyway, so tomorrow I'm heading off to actually see him now that I have a 2-week empty
Oh,
spot
oh,
in my
great.
calendar. So very happy for that.
Yay.
Not that he got you off.
Very good.
Joanne?
Al,
Okay.
yeah,
My-
yeah, well, I'm up here till I'm not. So yeah.
Well, that's it. Oh, I got to run a couple of things together here really fast. I didn't know Gail had a son in law enforcement. Son? I know what it was like though, because I was called for jury duty over the years, maybe 30 times, and you never served. You know, they don't want cops on juries. I don't know what it is. Is that what it is? Anyway, and then I have this for Jeff. As you know, he's my sponsor, and I remember that day in the dentist chair, all stuffed with stuff, you know, and he comes and he says, "Have you ever considered being in a service club?" And I said, and I've been here ever since.
And he took that as a yes.
That's all right. So anyway, I'm great to see my sponsor Jeff again today. So that's for this.
Very good. Very good. And Barbara Kiernan, I believe. Zoomer.
Hi, everybody. In Alamos right now. I just wanted to say hi from Paradise. Anyway, our mission down here at the Clinica Almas is going strong. The University of Arizona is going to send down a group of people to make sure that they see firsthand how our virtual clinical practicum is going with them. So everything's going fine. I'd like to just give you a heads up, say hi from here and a half a leg up, okay? Have a good meeting.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Adios. Okay, I think that's it for me. Time for, oh, sorry, one more. Jeff? Nordenson, wake up. No, you were falsely accused. Go back to sleep. All right, enjoy the program, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Joanne. What a great sergeant at arms. Well, we have a fabulous speaker today, and it just so happened that it turns out that John Osborne and Wally Austin are friends. So I asked Wally if he'd be willing to come up and actually introduce John.
It's really a pleasure to introduce our guest today. We've been friends for over 20 years. We met because we're both pilots and we flew for the Flying Samaritans for a long, long time. John still does. But John was raised on a ranch near Arivaca, near the border, and he learned Spanish as growing up. So he was not only a pilot for the Flying Sams, he was an interpreter too. We got a twofer there. But most people don't know, or wouldn't guess that John, when he was a young man, went to Alaska to work on the Alaska pipeline. And he started out as a laborer there. And pretty soon he got promoted to, what was it, a carpenter? Teamster truck driver. And he got promoted again. He said, they said, John, now you're an operating engineer. See this forklift there? Drive it. and he worked on the pipeline for a number of years and earned enough money to put himself through college. Came back to Arizona, got his degree, and not only that, got a law degree. So he's the Osborne of Goldberg and Osborne law firm, one of the largest and greatest firms in Arizona. And it's really my pleasure to introduce him, a self-made man, and he's still down to earth as can be, John Osborne.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Catalina Rotary, for inviting me to talk about the Mount Lemmon Lodge. I didn't, my wife said, you're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to see a lot of people you know. And I said, well, we'll see. And the people who I know here, and I know them because they put their money where their mouth is. By that, I mean, this organization is obviously about volunteerism, and the people that I know here, I have known over the last 30 or 40 years because we volunteered together to do things. Tony Spear, I'm going to call you out, Jeff Nordenson. They've served with me in American Youth Soccer Organization in various roles for decades. Wally Austin, I've known since 2000 because we both volunteered to help fly doctors, dentists, and other professionals down to Mexico to serve the underserved population of Mexico. So you put your money where your mouth is. Your performance and behavior follows your words. And for that, I admire you, and you do a great service, I know, in many ways. So what I'm here to do today is talk about the Mount Lemmon Lodge, and let me share, because the next sequence in my life is going to be helping my wife operate the Mount Lemmon Lodge. This isn't the cabins, if you've been up on the mountain. It's not presenting yet. This isn't the cabins that you may have seen across from the Sawmill Restaurant owned by the Zimmermans. It says I'm screen sharing. There we go. This is a 4-story Swiss chalet style lodge designed and operated by my dearly beloved, also of many generation Tucsonan, Diana Osborne, an architect who graduated from the University of Arizona in 1989, #1 in her class. She's not working actively as an architect anymore. She's doing her own projects, but she's a remarkable woman. And why did we build the Mount Lemmon Lodge? Because we want to bring the magic back to the mountain. It's really a gem of Southern Arizona, and it can draw people from all over the world because of its unique Sky Island characteristics. So as we go through this talk, I'm going to start out by giving you a little bit about history, mostly focused on my wife's history, which is bound up for 5 generations on Mount Lemmon since the 19th century. I'm going to cover a little bit about the businesses that are up there, and then I'll discuss with you the Mount Lemmon Lodge, what it's going to provide, and I think you'll be as excited as we are to bring the Mount Lemmon Lodge and lodge environments back to our Southern Arizona that we love so much. Let's see, it's going to be a little slow to catch up. So when it catches up, for thousands of years, people have retreated from the heat of the deserts in the summer to our Sky Islands. As the native population moved to the mountains. And I see it's not catching up. And they enjoyed the mountains because it's provided them water and it provided them sustenance while the deserts baked below. I'm not sure this is going to work if it, wow. Okay, I guess our connection's a little slow. And the only things that's changed since then is the population growth. We've grown to 1 million people. When I was born, there were 45,000 people in the city. It didn't go out past Wilmot. I discovered the Wilmot Library and paid a dime to go from Peterhouse School, where I went to school, out to the Wilmot Library and discovered Tolkien and went on to whatever educationally. But that growth and that demand is also driving what's going on Mount Lemmon. Think about it. It's the only sky island in our area that is easily accessible to the general population. And does it draw people? Oh my goodness. We have people from hundreds of miles, thousands of miles that come because they've heard about this beautiful mountain that we have developed over decades and decades with the general hitch road, the control road up the back through Oracle, and the highway up the front that was finished in the 1940s. That has created a special place. The Santa Ritas, you can hike to the top. The Grahams, you can drive to the top, but there's very limited opportunity up there. There's a lake. But this is right next to Tucson. This is so special. And so another reason why we're building the Mount Lemmon Lodge is location, location, location. It is a superb and unique location and a beautiful place to visit. The amenities for the enjoyment of people include Rose Canyon Lake. I'm not sure I'd go fly fishing there, but it does provide families a respite in a water and aquatic environment. Mountain bike users. I was talking to Gabriel, our guest in the back from ASU. And he mountain bikes Mount Lemmon. We have beautiful trails. Cañada del Oro before the last fire was just magnificent, and the mountain bike users kept it open and made it challenging, and you could tell there was so much enjoyment up there. And together, the private property owners and the U.S. Forest Service have really made a special place. So that's sort of the introduction to introduce you to my wife, who would better make this presentation probably whatsoever. I know you won't be able to tell, but I am extremely proud of my wife. She's a remarkable individual. And we were lucky enough to meet by chance at the Cushing Street Bar in 1971. And I was saying it was only because I beat her at pool that she fell in love with me to my table. But I think the real reason that we fell in love was because we, as many do with their spouses, had much in common. And one of the things that we had in common is we really grew up on this wonderful mountain next to us. My grandparents were original cabin leaseholders because originally Mount Lemmon was mostly Forest Service, except in the town of Summerhaven. And so I was fortunate enough to be a member of a family with a grandfather, with a doctor, and wanted to be in that environment at least in the late 40s, built his cabin and his wife's cabin by driving up the control road one way during part of the day and down the other way during the other part of the day. And that's how things were done back then. But Diana's history is even further back. Her great-grandfather moved to Arizona in the late 1860s during the Apache Wars. He had the general store in Mammoth, and we have pictures of him, the only man with a gun on his hip, in front of his general store in Mammoth. And of course, Mammoth being just down from Oracle, that was the route to get up Mount Lemmon, because that's the easiest approach. You can't really go over the Santa Catalinas that easily. General Hitchcock Highway is an amazing piece of engineering. And so her great-grandfather in 1916, with partners, created the Summerhaven Land and Improvement Company. And every lot you see in Summerhaven was originally subdivided by Eugene Childs, her great-grandfather, who was also one of the first members of the Board of Supervisors up in Florence, and is apparently responsible for the former county building, which has a big church steeple, and instead of buying a real clock, they put a clock face on it, and it's never changed time in 100-some years. So he was a businessman, and he knew how to save on costs. 3 cabins were immediately built, and amongst those were my wife's family's cabin. And along with that came the first real businesses. One of them being, ironically, the Mount Lemmon Lodge, not ours, of course. This was one that became the Ponderosa Lodge. And the Sun Corporation built that Mount Lemmon Lodge that burned. Some of you, I'm sure, may know that it burned in 1972, I believe. February of 1972. This, though, was actually not the first business on Mount Lemmon, because so many people did use the mountains for economics. In 1917, a sawmill was purchased. The town slowly began to grow as a vacation community with cabins renting for $35 per month. If you want to rent a cabin up there now, it's about $450 a night or more. So things have really, really changed over the years. And in the late 30s, there's a school teacher here in Tucson by the name of Zimmerman fell in love with the mountain. And he opened an inn, and he opened a sawmill. And of course, if you know Mount Lemmon, you know the Zimmerman name. And some of the magic that Diana and I remember from our growing up in the 50s and 60s was created because of people like Mr. Zimmerman and people like a realtor that some of you may know, Patty Borden, and her husband Thorne. Patty recently passed away, bless her soul. But she and her husband purchased the Mount Lemmon Lodge and made it the Ponderosa Lodge in the 60s and held it until it burned. Now, Diana's mother, Janice Cotton, was a realtor who had an office in that lodge. And our memories of the Verstig stable going and you know, she was hired as a stable guide and a mucker to clean out the stables. There were trout in those streams up in those days. And once in a while, somebody seeds a trout, I think, and still claims to catch it in Lemon Creek or the creek they're running through, which is Upper Sabino Creek that runs through. Diana was instrumental in starting through the Tucson Ski Club, I'm not sure that was the name of it, the building of the ski area up there, which originally was in Bear Wallow, and a rope tow in Bear Wallow then was moved to where the location is now. And the developer of the ski area up in Flagstaff came down because they thought they might be able to succeed with ski areas in Arizona. And the same guy came down to Tucson and built that ski area. And she remembers as a 10-year-old, really more like an 8-year-old, rolling logs down the mountain. That was her 3 sisters and she's job as she did that. I was myself in middle school and learned to ski because I could go to the University of Arizona and pay $0.25 and get driven up the mountain where I could learn to ski. And the family story is that we think we did meet. It was because the advanced ski team, they had a competition, and the advanced ski only had 2 girls on it, and the intermediate had 10 kids. And I didn't know how to ski worth a darn. I couldn't even get up the rope tow, up to the Poma lift, up to the top. So I said, well, I'll just sign up for the advanced. And I still have a trophy because I came in 3rd place behind 2 little blonde girls who I'm sure were my wife and her sister. So the first lodges were La Mariposa, later named the Mount Lemmon Lodge and Ponderosa Lodge. And I think I hit the button twice. So excuse me if we go back. So that's our family's history and why we think there's magic, because there was magic in that time. We believe that this is an environment where you can imagine the fairies flying through the flowers, and you'll go up there from time to time, although the Forest Service hates it, and find little shrines with all kinds of children's dolls and toys made into fairy castles. Bear Wallow Ski Area, I've already mentioned, 1945. The Ski Valley, 1958. And then tragedy struck. In 2000 and I'm sorry, yeah, in 2002, the Bullock fire came to within a quarter mile of my grandparents' house and stopped. They were able to stop it right below the Mount Lemmon highway. Probably few people remember that fire. I remember thinking, boy, it wouldn't take much to just come up the next 300 yards and take us out, which it did. The next year, a careless camper started the Aspen fire, which was a holocaust for Mount Lemmon. Huge percentage of the town was destroyed by fire. Long-term fights over insurance money to rebuild. And a lot of community love and time went into trying to do that. But it was slow. And only now are we beginning to develop economically to where we can do this. At that time, a new commercial district was designed, but nobody could take advantage of it except for the Zimmermans, who built the first restaurant up there. And you may remember Pam, the pie lady, who had a little shop, and everybody went up and ate these delicious pies. That family, regretfully, has passed away. But as you'll learn, pies are returning to Mount Lemmon as now businesses begin to resurge. This became a driving force with now unprecedented redevelopment occurring. About the same time that we began our lodge concept, another business owner began the so-called Mount Lemmon Hotel, which is now in operation. And if you go up to the top where the old Zimmerman Inn was, and actually the Ponderosa Lodge, you'll find about 16 cabins that are rented as the Mount Lemmon Hotel. That is not our project. Our project is directly across the street from the general store up there. And it was originally, the general store was originally started by a police officer, Mr. Garcia, and he was able to get that going. So slowly businesses have begun to take root again. One of the things that the community supported Summer Haven with is a community center, which was built in or around 2006 and still serves us well, both as a visitor center and as a public meeting place. So a lot of support came in, and the businesses on the mountain, I'll just briefly go through, include the Mount Lemmon Realty, which is the Zimmerman's business. Bob Zimmerman originally started it with his wife Fran, and Jenny Zimmerman, their daughter, carries on the tradition now as the owner of both the Sawmill Restaurant and the Mount Lemmon Realty. The Mount Lemmon General Store I've already made mention of, and Officer Garcia did an excellent job putting that together. The Sawmill Run Restaurant, this may be something you recognize. By the way, the ridge line up behind there is Upper Loma Linda, where our cabin, where I live, up at the top of that ridge. The Sky Island Trading Store is just down the street from the Zimmerman Realty. This is run by a local fireman, one of the Mount Lemmon Fire District, the volunteer fire district. And let me put in a plug, by the way, there's something coming up on the ballot that will help fund these volunteer small fire districts around the state. It's a small tax increase, and it will be enormously beneficial for all of our safety throughout the state to have these folks be funded. And the pizza place, the Sky Island, the cookie cabin, where you can buy a pizza and get a cookie, literally. Now you might notice the line of people waiting there. It's just the statistics on the number of visitors to the mountain. Let me not forget Debbie's Living Rainbow, a gift shop that's up there and has been up there for decades. I already mentioned the hotel. Let me just catch up here. We've started the Mount Lemmon Scooter Company, so you can go up and rent a scooter. Interior decorator this is one of the hotel properties, has started a interior decoration service, and also a gift shop. And this is just an evidence of the economic rebirth that Mount Lemmon is going through right now, of which we're only one part. We have a coffee shop now. Unless you go up there on Monday and Tuesday, they're going to be closed then. But the rest of the week, you can go up and get yourself a cup of coffee. We've had one group who run the Rose High School Academy get together with other members of their church and build a chapel, a wonderful, magnificent chapel. So we have a lot of venues. We have an arts and crafts fair that is up there, run by, actually kind of organized as a charity by a Deacon Sini. Ski Valley, I've already mentioned, and the University of Arizona Sky Center. So let me get on to the Mount Lemmon Lodge. I did edit this, but this version obviously didn't get saved, but you can't see it yet. So the Mount Lemmon Lodge is projected to open in February of 2023. We were hoping it would be open last May, but unusually heavy monsoon rains in 2021 and 2022, but more 2021 than this year, really set us back. We literally had to carve out, I'm just looking to see where something is. Nope. We literally had to carve out a section of the mountain and bring in a soil nail contractor who nailed concrete screens, not concrete, metal, basically metal screening with 15-foot soil nails, and basically nailed concrete to the side of this cut with 37 feet of depth at the back, because you know how steep it is if you've ever been up there, with the creek just across the roadway. And so this will be the first full service lodge on the mountain. This says 20 years. I didn't write that. Diana wrote it. She gave this talk once before. It's actually, and what she's thinking of is the Alpine Lodge. Many of you who have been here more recently may be thinking of the Mount Lemmon Lodge. I mean, the Alpine Lodge, but it's 40 years since what we knew as children was burned. The lodge will have a number of different amenities. We'll have 16 rooms. We will have 14 of those will be regular 350 to 75 foot rooms. We'll have 4 suites. Those will include 1-bedroom suites. And so that will be the rooms. We'll also have a Beyond Bread. Shelby Collins and his wife Randy have teamed up with us, and we'll have our own Beyond Bread restaurant. So the pies have come back to the mountain, and it will be in the form of the Beyond Bread bakery. And of course, we'll serve all that they do. And then after we close the Beyond Bread restaurant, we're going to become the community center, the heart of Mount Lemmon, we hope, and bring all of our neighbors in to, visit and have fun, have drinks, and hopefully enjoy a nice, safe evening at home. So it's going to be a really exciting project. Let me get down. We'll also have a gift shop. And Diana has been spending an incredible amount of time on this gift shop. It's going to be really kind of special. This won't be your knickknacks that you see at so many gift shops. There's plenty of places that you can buy stuff that's inexpensive if you wish. We'll have some of that, but we'll also have some really first class gifts that you would want to give to a loved one. Some of the samples of things she's buying you can see here that we'll be sending onwards. I've already mentioned the guest rooms and suites, but this gives you some sense for what they'll look like. Each will have a balcony. The suites will have their own private patios. These are really generous rooms, and they'll be very nicely outfitted. Up at the west side of the property, which is the uphill side of the property, there'll be a Swedish sauna. There will be access to our private garden next door. And we were fortunate to buy 2 lots next to ours that we are going to leave as close as possible to the way that Paul and Alice Baker made it when they had a cabin on those 2 lots that burned in 2003. And they were generous enough to consider us to buy that because they like the project we're doing. When we went for our conditional use permit, the outpouring of support from our neighbors on Mount Lemmon was heartwarming. There were no objections whatsoever to what we were doing. And somebody who also does home renovation, Michael Anderson, came down with big poster boards he had made up of what needed to happen as he presented to the conditional use permit officer. It was so heartwarming. We must have had 40 neighbors down there at the Pima County Board of Supervisors hearing room in support of our business. We initially wanted to do, and we're getting near the end. We initially wanted to do something like a beer garden for the general public, but our conditional use permit for the gardens will only permit guests to use the gardens. And the gardens will have their own spa. We have neighbors who are therapists and who provide various personal services. And we'll of course also have an event venue for weddings. We'll be able to provide full food and beverage services for anyone who wants to rent the lodge and bring their wedding party. So what ideas do we have for the future for our lodge and the environment? Basically, we're providing this green space that we talked about, I keep seeing that we're behind here. Those future ideas are to use the forest garden for public use as a green space so that everybody can come in and enjoy the green space. We'd like to provide a plaza surrounded by a lot of variety. We'd like the whole downtown area to be various business owners who are providing services to the, well, in 2019, 1.6 million cars times, say, 2, to the millions of people that come up there each year. But we have problems. I mean, this is extremely challenging. And part of the future involves how are we going to fix the problems that we have. Number one, we have incredible parking needs. When it snows, people flock to the mountain from everywhere to see the snow and to get their kids out into it. And we need to be able to park them. We need to be able to find places that can be done. And yes, this is a challenge. There's no doubt about it. The intensity of the use is something that has to be solved. Fortunately, there are some plans to introduce parking, more parking. The county and the Forest Service are providing more parking. This is a so-called flat grant project on U.S. Forest Service land that will add an additional 90+ spaces within walking distance of Summerhaven by 2025. Some of those dates keep moving on us. We've talked about doing a shuttle service up Mount Lemmon, but studies were done in 2004 in connection with a possible tram. And some of these options have not been proven economically viable, this being one. There is a shuttle service now, but it costs $80 to get up there per person. And that's pretty expensive for any individual. And it's even then is difficult to make a profit according to what the projections are by this means. Periodically over the years, the idea of a tram has come up, and that tram would start over in Oro Valley as last or most recently conceived, because that's the shortest route. This would be a 30-minute ride from somewhere near Catalina State Park up to the top. And there are properties that could be used as a terminus on the top. It could come up what's called the Sutherland Trail from the west, go up by the ski area where if this was a gondola system instead of a tram system, could drop people wherever they want to go. It could drop mountain bikers at the top of Sutherland Trail and Cañada del Oro Trail. It could drop skiers and people who want to walk the top of the mountain and go to the observatory at the observatory. And it could proceed on down what's called Radio Ridge to Summerhaven, where it could drop people at the bottom there and help alleviate our parking problem. And the cost of this would, if you look at different places around the country where they have gondolas, like Palm Springs, we're talking about $20 a person. Now we're talking something that can really work for the common man. I mean, that can be what you spend in gas getting to Mount Lemmon in many cases. So we don't know where that's going to go. It got soundly shut down. There are environmental objections to it, but it's still something that we think about. We have other problems. Public restrooms need to be expanded. There are not enough picnic sites. And so there's just, and there's only so much room that we just are trying to solve. But just because we have businesses up there isn't going to change the number of people, at least in my view, that go up the mountain, because it's that there's nothing to do up there. When that's the most common complaint we hear when they get to the mountain, there's nothing to do. Well, now there will be things to do, but with this huge volume of people already coming up, it's because of the mountain and why it's so special. It is so special that it itself draws these people without any real services up there. And that's what the purpose of the Mount Lemmon Lodge is, to help provide something for those folks so that they have something to do when they get to the top of the mountain, and to give an economic base that can justify the future as Tucson continues to grow. We are also providing employee housing, because how do we get employees? None exists. We will be providing additional cabins for people to use as well. And here comes the basic problem. That's the size of Summerhaven. The circle is the size of the commercial district. There's just little land available, both for residential and for commercial growth. And here's what we have to serve. The whole metropolitan area. We all feel that we're stewards of the mountain, on the mountain. Everybody wants to preserve the mountain as best we can. But the way things are working right now, we're going downhill. Things are going to get worse if we don't plan ahead and rationally develop Mount Lemmon so that everybody that comes up there will have something to do, and everybody that comes up there can do so in a responsible manner that doesn't detract from the environment, but provides a playground. Because truly, Mount Lemmon is the jewel, one of the greatest jewels of Southern Arizona, and we need to keep it that way. Any questions?
You can, John, can you stay around a few minutes?
Sure. I'm sorry I went over.
Not at all. Thank you very much. John will stay for a few minutes, so in case you have any questions, we can get those answered. And oh yes, we'll go back to.
There we go.
John, before you walk away, I'd like to give you a little token of our appreciation in honor of your visit here today. Rotary, which internationally since 1985 has been on a quest to eradicate polio worldwide, is going to inoculate 25 children in your name. And we'd also like you to have this little coin, which is our our theme for the year on one side and the four-way test of Rotary on the other side. And if you'd all be willing to stand and join me now, we will repeat our four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is fair to all concerned. Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, everyone. If you'd like to ask John a question, he'll be around, and we'll see you next week.